welcome back. I am so excited that we get to share another story from God's Word today. Now, we have been in this section of our Bible, right? Each little book of the Bible is represented by a book. And this section is called the Torah. These are the books of the law. But now we're going to move on to this brown section. And we have these color-coded to help us remember the different types of books that we have. Now, this brown section, these are called history books. So there's a lot of stories that we get to find in here and a lot of history. Now, today's story actually comes from 4 different books. We're going to be in 2 Kings chapter 25, 2 Chronicles chapter 36. And then also we're going to mention the story that comes from the book of Ezra and the book of Nehemiah. So you'll have to pay attention when you hear Miss Sarah share the story. You are welcome to go and look up these stories all by yourself, but now we get to hear the story told by Teacher Sarah.
Hi, you guys. Today we're going to hear a story from God's Word. This story you can find in actually a few different books of the Bible, but it begins in the book of 2 Kings. And we remember that the Bible is God's true and holy word, and that the words written in here are true. It's not a story that we made up. So, let's get started. This is the desert box. It holds a small piece of the desert. We need a small piece of the desert in our class to help us tell the stories because so many important things happened in the desert. The desert is a dangerous place. There's hardly any food or water. It's extremely hot during the day, and it is so cold at night. People don't go into the desert unless they have to. It takes courage to go into the desert. Now this is Jerusalem. Here is the wall. Inside is the temple, a house built for God. Here are the people of God. They knew that God was in the temple, but they thought the temple was the only place that they could pray to God. People thought the wall of the city could protect them from everything. People thought the wall of the city could protect them from everything. Then came the Assyrians and they attacked. It was a terrible time. People fought, some starved to death, but finally the Assyrians went away. Then the Babylonians came and they did not go away. Their king wanted the city of Jerusalem for himself. They broke down the walls and they burned the temple. They took many of the people away. Only a few remained in Jerusalem. The soldiers marched God's people away from Jerusalem. They looked back at the smoke of the burning city, and they wondered if they would ever see it again. As they walked through the desert, they had to get up when the soldiers told them to get up. They had to eat what the soldiers said. They had to go where the soldiers said. They had to go to bed when the soldiers said. They had no choices to make on their own. They grew weary and some died. It took a long time. God's people were in exile. They could not go home. They hung their harps on the weeping willow trees and sang sad songs. They dreamed of Jerusalem and the temple, but they could not go back. They even faced toward Jerusalem when they said their prayers. Slowly, God's people began to understand that God was in this place too. God's presence came to them as they gathered and read scriptures and prayed. The king of Babylon allowed many of God's people to work. They set up little stores. Some worked for the king. It was a shock when the king of Persia came with his army and took Babylon for himself. The new king began to let some of the people go back to Jerusalem. Some went with Ezra, and they began to rebuild the temple. More were allowed to go back. They went with Nehemiah and rebuilt the walls around the city again. Then the people of God were no longer in exile. They could go home again. Do you know what happened? Not all of them went home. Now they knew God was with them in this strange and foreign land, and some stayed because God was there too. I really like this story. I wonder what part of this story that you like the very most. I wonder what part of this story is the most important part. I wonder what part of this story you have questions about. Talk with your family or whoever you're watching this video with and wonder together about the story of the exile, of the people of God being exiled from Jerusalem and then being allowed to return again. I hope you guys have a really great day, and I hope that you keep wondering about this story and wondering about God being with us just like he was with the people of God all the way back in these stories from the Bible. Have a wonderful day, you guys. Bye.